because it's a little far away.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am with Greg.
Here I am with Josh.
So Greg, I just met you, and I was introduced to you. My friend said, "Oh, this is Greg. He's the bass player from Husker Dü."
That is correct.
And some of my friends were calling it Husker Dü. Does that annoy you as much as it annoys me?
It's one of those things where it used to annoy me, but
Okay.
now I'm used to it.
You're over it.
I'm over it. So I still say Hüsker Dü.
Well, that's the name of the band.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
But
In case you're confused.
Some people, they just can't get over the fact that Hüsker is not Husker because, in
Yeah.
Canada, everybody is like, oh, it's Husker Dü.
Okay, well, Canada.
I don't know if that's just a Canadian thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Okay, so and you're a founding member of that band. What was that about for you musically? Just like strictly like musically, like as far as your bass playing and how you approached it.
So it was the first band I was ever in. It was also Bob Malt's first band that he was ever in. And, I was 19, Bob was 18, Grant was 17. We were friends. We, got together. This guy named Charlie Pine put this cover band together to play a gig at this little 3-2 dive bar. And so we put together 3 sets of covers, and it's like, wow, that's a motivation to actually learn how to play the bass. I have to play a set. So I had to learn these songs. But Bob, Grant, and myself really enjoyed playing together. So then we kept playing together. And I was working in a record store called Northern Lights, and the owner said, hey, if you guys want practice space, if you clear out all the old construction stuff from the store build out downstairs, you can practice down there.
In the basement of the record store.
Yep. So every night at 9 o'clock when the store closed, we went downstairs. And
Every night?
Every night. And,
So you practiced every night? In the beginning?
In the beginning. And this is after we did the covers thing. So
Yeah.
The 3 of us kept playing. We kind of parted ways with the other guy. And, it was just like, we love music, we love punk rock, and it was just, goofing around and playing and then learning how to write songs. Mm-hmm. And I still have some cassette tapes of some of those really, really early practices. And a lot of it was awful.
Yeah.
But out of that started to emerge real songs.
And what year was that?
This would have been 1979.
79.
Yep.
In the record store of Northern Lights in the basement in what city?
That was in St. Paul.
St. Paul,
St. Paul,
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yep.
And that's where Hüsker Dü was born.
Exactly. Yep.
So what I remember is like a noisy kind of what I think of now is like a tube amp kind of driven, raw, noisy punk band with a lot of distortion.
Yes.
And loud guitar.
Exactly.
And I think the first time I saw Husker Dü was in San Francisco. It could have been 80, it could have been 81, I don't exactly remember. Do you remember the first time you went to San Francisco?
That would have been late summer of 81.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were coming through?
I'd say end of July. We stayed at Jello Biafra's house for like 3 weeks. And he got us a gig at the Bouet Gardens. Dirk Dirksen really liked us, so he got us on another show. DOA came through the area. We played a show with them in Sacramento. We played some sort of outdoor festival that Flipper was headlining over in Berkeley. So we did manage to play 4 shows. And I had been, somebody gave me Mike Watt's phone number. so I'd been talking to Watt to try to find a gig in LA, because basically we got out to San Francisco, we didn't have anything left, and Watt couldn't line anything up, so we called First Avenue and 7th Street Entry, booked a show there for August 17th. Got a show in at O'Banion's in Chicago like the night before. Drove straight from San Francisco to Chicago, played O'Banion's the next night, the homecoming show, and that's when we recorded Land Speed Record.
Okay.
That show is Land Speed Record. And it's kind of crazy because we had been out on the road for 2.5, almost 3 months.
Yeah.
And, through Canada, the Pacific Northwest, down to San Francisco. And the band, we got a lot tighter, we got a lot faster. And it really kind of freaked a lot of people out when we got home and we dropped Land Speed Record on them. And they were like, holy shit, you guys are like faster than hell now, Some of the early Hüsker fans, I think, were maybe a little put off by that fact, because prior to that we were, we had some fast songs, but it was that tour that where Bob fully embraced hardcore, and I've always felt that Bob was like, oh, I can fucking write hardcore songs, and so
were you more? Was it more of an artsy band before that?
I wouldn't say artsy, but we were influenced by like the Buzzcocks and Wire and Joy Division. So we
slower stuff.
A little slower stuff, but darker. That Manchester kind of sound.
Yeah.
And and we still played some of those songs, but the majority of the new stuff was all now hardcore.
I think you played somewhere on Valencia Street. It was the Indian Center with the Dicks.
Oh yeah, probably, yep. I think that was probably 82 then.
That was in 82?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's when I saw you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to piece it together. If you were in San Francisco in 81, at the end of July, you might have gone to a party and seen X and Red Cross and the Mutants at the Fun Terminal.
I would have remembered that, and we didn't.
You would have remembered it, and you weren't there. Okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah, you would. I think you would have remembered that.
Yeah.
That was my birthday party.
It's a hell of a birthday party.
Yeah, my buddy Ward had the same birthday as me, and he lived at the Fun Terminal.
Nice.
But I'm not interviewing me. I'm interviewing you. So, man, this is awesome. So tell me like something about Husker Dü that is like, just what was like the at the height for you of like the punk rock Husker Dü like shows, like after that time. It sounds like after Land Speed Record came out and you guys were like, it was loud and fast.
It was loud and fast. Yep. We toured the West Coast and the Southwest and Texas a lot in 82, and it was a lot of night driving. So because cities are pretty far apart in the West, so I would drink a bunch of coffee before the show.
Because you drove, because you're the bass player.
And then I would drive, and Bob and Grant would sleep in the back, and basically I would drive to the next club, and then I'd try to sleep in the van, or in the club if we could get in. I slept on a lot of pool tables. But so the following year, 1983, was the first time that we went out to the East Coast.
Okay.
And we were thinking like, all right, we've never played the East Coast before. It's going to be starting over. It's going to be just like how it was when the first time we went out to the West Coast. Nobody's going to know us. We're going to have to build up a fan base. And we get out there, and we played this club in Boston called Mavericks.
Okay.
It was sold out. before, you know, the show was sold out. We're like, holy crap, this is amazing. How did all these people find out about us? And then it was like college radio. So the East Coast was all of a sudden, it was, we had this, the fans were there. We didn't have to rebuild.
Wow.
And so that show at Mavericks was pretty epic. But the most memorable show on that first East Coast tour, we played in Philadelphia. And it was supposed to be at this place called the East Side Club.
Yeah.
But the promoter got cold feet, pulled it. The guy that was putting on the show was like, you know what? We're still going to have this show. And he lived in a row house. And so they dubbed their place the West Side Club.
Okay.
And we played in the basement. And it was packed. And they had a closed circuit feed up to a TV set in the living room. The living room was packed. So while we're playing, I can see the floor bouncing from all the people upstairs, and just this huge fucking sea of people. And all the guys that put on the show who lived in the house were all in the front row with their arms locked, basically acting as like, you know, the security barrier to keep everybody from falling onto the stage. And it was just wild. That was something I'll never forget.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And Hüsker Dü stayed together for years.
We made it 9 years.
Yeah, album after album. You know, something that sticks in my mind is the song Diane.
Mm-hmm.
And I know probably a lot of people have asked you about that song. Who wrote that song?
So Grant wrote Diane, and Diane was a real person, Diane Edwards, and who actually went to high school with me. But she worked at as a waitress at a Perkins on Robert Street, and got abducted one night after work and was missing, and then found her body 3 days later. Caught the perpetrator. So it was in the news, a big thing, and so that's where. So Diane is based on a true story.
It's a dark song.
It is a dark song.
It's a dark story.
It's probably the first punk murder ballad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one of those, unfortunately, in the San Francisco scene. There was a young woman who hung out at parties, and I knew her from through the Sick Pleasure house where we hung out. That was a cool little band at the time, and they found her famously in a drum in Golden Gate Park.
Oh shit.
Yeah. But the Diane story is, what you all knew her pretty much, and so it was like a no-brainer to write a song about it.
I don't know if it was a no-brainer, but it
was impactful.
Yeah.
It was a thing that was impactful for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other songs that mean a lot to you from any period of Hüsker Dü? Maybe songs that you wrote or things that really touched you.
Well, each record has a few songs on it that I think are just perfect. I think one of the things that made Husker Dü as good as it was musically was the Bob was super prolific, and once and you can kind of see it through the early days. It's like Bob is teaching himself how to write songs and write better songs. Grant was a super multi-talented person, really fucking smart. Grant was not as prolific as Bob, but I think the stuff that Grant, it would take him longer to come forward with, here's this song. but they were fully formed. Where Bob was just writing so much stuff. 2/3 of those songs we'd play in practice, maybe play in sound check, possibly maybe play it in a set, but then it would get replaced by something else. I was more involved with the writing in the early days because it was just the three of us having fun.
Yeah.
But as things progressed so my point being about the records is that you've got two great songwriters. So you've got their best stuff. So it's not like just one guy, here's my handful of songs, and then the rest is kind of filler for the album. It's like, here's all the great songs.
You wrote some good songs.
I wrote some okay songs.
I looked at the songwriting credits, and some of the songs that you wrote are songs that I like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but you were all working on it. You
Yeah.
didn't write as many as they did, but
Right.
that
And up through Metal Circus, everything was just all songs by Hüsker Dü, because it was that collaborative group thing, and then it then started to become more of like, okay, well, these are my songs, those are your songs. It got a little bit more difficult to bring as the third most talented songwriter in the band. A little bit more difficult to bring new material in because they wouldn't necessarily take it as seriously.
Yeah.
And but I think on some of the stuff that I wrote, Bob would, like, his guitar parts were just wild because he didn't, I didn't necessarily say this is what I want you to do, so he would just basically go crazy on these songs. So
Yeah.
And that was always fun, Bob is such a great guitar player. It's like in the early days, I was, would just be watching him play and thinking like, I'm in a band with the fucking punk rock Jimi Hendrix. What the hell,
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of, Ted Falcone.
Oh yeah.
Kind of from Flipper, kind of does that. Bob did that kind of sound wall thing.
Yep.
On a lot of songs, it was like you would just hear the guitar, and it was like a wave, and then you're in the wave.
Yep.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Are you guys friends? Do you talk?
We are cordial friends.
Not close.
Not close.
He lives far away.
Yeah, he's lives in California. I'm still in Minnesota. I'll send him an email and wish him a happy birthday every year on his birthday.
Nice.
And that type of thing. But it's, we're not pen pals.
And you guys aren't planning a Husker Dü reunion thing at any point?
That'll never happen.
That will never happen.
Yep. Bob has no interest in it.
Okay.
And of course, Grant's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that.
So,
but you're playing music. You're still playing.
I am still playing and having a blast with Ultrabomb. And
let's talk about that project.
Yeah. So Ultrabomb.
I've heard it's good.
It is good. As a matter of fact, I think Ultrabomb is currently playing the best punk rock on the planet.
We're talking.
In my humble opinion. So Finney McConnell is a guitar player from Toronto, Canada. He was born in Dublin. His family moved to Toronto when he was 10. So basically he's lived in Canada his whole life, and he has a Celtic punk band called the Mahones. And how we kind of got introduced to each other was the Mahones recorded Makes No Sense at All, one of Bob's songs. And I
classic.
Saw it on it just popped up on Facebook one day, and so I listened to it. And I'm like, all right, not too bad. So I liked it, and then Finney saw that I liked his video, so then he sent me a friend request, and then he messaged me going like, oh, I'm a huge Husker Dü fan, thank you so much. And I just replied back, it's like, yeah, that was really good, but you didn't get the bass part right. So that was like in I want to say 2015 or so.
We are particular as bass players.
Yes, we are. That is correct. So then, we would just, message back and forth. And 3 years ago, Vinny saw that I was no longer playing with this group called Porcupine that I'd been playing with for about 5 years in Minneapolis. And he's like, bro, you don't have a band right now. I've got this great idea. Let's put together a band, you, me, and he's like, I know the greatest punk rock drummer on the planet. His name's Jamie Oliver. He plays with the UK Subs. Let's the three of us get together. And the original kind of concept was, we'll play some Hüsker covers, we'll play some Mahones, we'll throw in a couple of UK Sub songs and just get together for a laugh, maybe play some festivals. And and at the same time, he messaged Jamie going like, hey, do you want to be in a band with Greg Norton from Husker Dü? And Jamie's like, well, fuck yeah. So the three of us then started group messaging and video calling, and we, trying to come up with a name. And Jamie's got a friend in London, this expat named Grant, who's I think originally from Colorado. But anyway, he came up with the name Ultramom. And then I met him last December, and he's like, well, I thought Ultrabomb was good because you guys could be the Ultrabomb, like you could be really great, but if you weren't so good, it'd be like, yep, they're the fucking Ultrabomb. Like, that was...
Like down low.
Wah, wah, So...
Okay, like the ultra shit.
Right, exactly. So, Skippy had a couple of weeks. Finny is in Berlin. And he sends me a message. It's like, hey, I'm in Berlin for a couple of weeks. Yeah, Jamie happens to be here. He's like, I've got some studio time booked. I'm thinking about maybe laying down some riffs. And I was like, I should go to Berlin. Never been to Berlin. Always wanted
I've heard
to.
It's fun.
And then I'm like, and I should probably meet these guys just to see if this thing is going to be real.
So you went to Berlin?
Flew to Berlin. Jamie picked me up from the airport. First time I'd ever met him. The next morning at the studio, Finny showed up. First time I'd ever actually met him in person. First time the three of us had ever been in a room together. And we wrote 4 songs. That day we wrote 6 the next day. So we had 10 songs. And it just came together so well. And it was one of those things where Finny's like, well, here's a riff. And it's like, yeah, we like that one. And we turn it into a song. Play it a couple of times, and we tell the engineer, it's like, okay, let's record this. And Hansi, the engineer, at one point was like, I cannot believe that you just wrote that song. And I'm like, yeah, not only did we just write it, but I just met these guys. And he's like, I just can't believe it. It sounds like you guys have been playing together for a long time. And it really felt like that too. It felt like and plus we were all getting along. It's like instantly.
Kismet.
The chemistry was there. The music was coming together. Another thing that Hansi said was like, oh, when Finny booked the session, he said you were a punk rock band. He goes, you were much better than that. I'm like, aw, thanks, buddy. So we had 4 days in the studio. The third day, Finny and I are just kind of, cleaning up guitar parts. And Finny's adding leads and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I've got a shitload of lyrics. So we printed out all these lyrics, and when I was doing my bass parts, I came back in, and Finny had it all laid out on a table, and he's like, I've got the whole album figured out. He had, just from looking at these lyrics that I had written over the course of probably anywhere from a month to 5 years out, and had just been collecting and had them. And he's like, I've got the whole thing figured out. And on the last day, Sunday, he went and sang the whole fucking record, nailed it. I mean, wow. We did some pencil edits on the fly just so, things would work. And we got done with that, and we're like, hey, we still have some time left. And we had talked about doing a cover song. And we we're like, well, if we have time, let's do Sonic Reducer. So basically, Jamie had been the only one to ever play Sonic Reducer with anybody. And so Finny and I like quick put it together, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to sing it. And I chose to, go more with the David Thomas vocal from Rocket from the Tombs, as opposed to Steve Bader's. And we knocked out Sonic Reducer in like 1 or 2 takes.
Yeah.
And threw that on the album. So that's the first record, Time to Burn. 4 days in the studio, lightning in a bottle, and we were like, we just recorded a fucking punk rock classic,
That's amazing.
So so that's how the band got together.
I'm gonna have to listen to this now, obviously.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's not too
will.
bad.
I mean, I will.
Ultra Bomb, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, it's all there.
We're on the Facebook,
All the
on
streaming
the Instagram,
services, Apple Music.
Yep. Like, share, comment, and follow. And don't forget to
And
subscribe.
subscribe to
That's
this
right.
channel as well.
Yes.
The punk rock president.
There we go.
Let's talk about politics real quick. I know we're running out of time.
Okay.
We're in an election year.
Yes, we are.
It's not looking good. Total shit show.
Well,
Do you have
I'm
any
just hopeful
feelings?
that this is not the last election.
It's not well, as far as we know, it's not the last election.
Right. Yeah. I remain optimistic that smart people will get out and not allow a fascist wannabe dictator to take office again, because you got to take him at his word, and everything that he says he will double down on. He talking about the Insurrection Act like on day one, and kicking immigrants out and rounding people up and basically getting anybody that opposes him out of government, so he's just surrounded by yes men. And that's what it would be. It would be white yes men, because that's who he is. He's,
I mean, I'm kind of hoping for
Trump
an
is horrible.
alien intervention or something.
That would be okay.
Some kind of plot twist on
Yeah.
America. Did
Yeah.
you see the film Civil War?
Not yet, but I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that last
Okay, I
night,
brought
and,
that up.
And I definitely, it's on my list. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, well, fucking Biden is really old. It's like, yeah, well, they're both really old, but one is going to be horrible. And the other one, yeah, he's really old, and it sucks that those are the choices this year. And hopefully, like I said, that this is not the last election. That means the next election cycle in 2028, there will be new faces, younger people. I would love to see America get to a point where it's not just this two-party system, which seems impossible to overcome because they're so fucking established. But it would be great to see alternative parties pop up. And but I think as we get past this year, I think hopefully there'll be better people with better ideas.
How about the Kennedy thing? What's your take on him?
Oh man, I'm dumbfounded by it. Seriously, and it's like, well, and not to mention the fact that his whole campaign is supported by Trump super PACs.
Okay.
Right, but I believe in science.
Science.
I've
Okay, so
been
you're going to go on his
vaccinated
vaccine
numerous
thing.
times.
His vaccine stance.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, just that alone is like, what the hell?
Right.
What on Donald Trump's flat Earth is this bullshit?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what cracks me up is people are like, oh, his stance on Israel, for example, and it's like, it's the same as Biden's stance on Israel. It's America's stance on Israel.
Right. And which is, the American stance on Israel is totally fucked up.
We're in a hole that is going to be difficult to dig out of, I feel like.
Yes.
Well, we just launched into a large chasm.
We certainly did.
And now instead of sitting in this large, kind of hollowed out chasm of fucking garbage, I like what you said about how you're hopeful.
I am hopeful.
And it's not the last election. It's not going to be our last election. It might be someone's last election,
Right.
but I don't think it's going to be our last election.
Hopefully, yes.
What do you have to say about people who are young and they're starting bands? I mean, Hüsker Dü, my big takeaway from this interview was that Hüsker Dü in the formative years, in the formative weeks, months, practiced every day.
We did.
Now that's rare nowadays.
Is it?
I feel like it might be.
All right. Well, but what I always tell any young musicians coming up is like, keep having fun, keep it real, keep your egos in check. Don't have once somebody starts thinking that their contribution to a project is more important than somebody else's contribution, then things start to get fucked up and weird, and eventually it's not going to be fun anymore. So keep it real, keep it fun. Don't. So I worked in the restaurant business for years. I was always anxious to get people's feedback when it was negative, because that's the only way that you get better. If you're constantly being told, that was great, you're the greatest, that was fantastic, eventually you're going to start to believe that you're so fucking great, you can't do anything wrong. And then you surround yourself with a group of people that keep you pushing you up that way. The only way that you're going to grow and get better is when people go like, your shit fucking stinks. That's crap. And it's like, all right, I'm just going to do better.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. So just be better. Just everybody just be a little bit better.
Was there anything that Hüsker Dü stood for besides just making a band? I mean, it wasn't a gay band. It was never a gay band.
Yeah.
It was never a homosexual forward out band.
Right, exactly.
At any point.
Right.
But Bob is now.
Yeah, Bob got outed. After Husker broke up.
He got outed.
And
what's up with that?
I'm not exactly sure. And
was it a bad thing? Was it hard?
I don't know.
A hard time?
Because this was a couple years after Husker broke up, so at that point Bob and I weren't really talking.
Yeah.
But but once Bob was out, he like totally embraced it, and it's like, this is who I am. And he lived in New York. He went to Fire Island a lot. He writes about it in his book. And
yeah.
Although I always thought this was funny, because after an interview that Grant did shortly after Bob got outed, it was like, yeah, leave it to Bob to get outed, and then make it seem like he was the first guy that ever fucking sucked a cock. So anyway, but I'm bummed.
So you're just gonna leave it. You're just gonna leave it there, and say, well, as if he was the only one.
There you go.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, but you're correct.
It was never like the Dicks were a punk band that was like, yeah, we're gay. MDC sang about being gay, although he never was.
Yeah, the Big Boys.
Yeah, the Big Boys were from Texas. Were always singing about, and they were queer. Mm-hmm. Or a couple of them were.
I think like there are a couple of songs on Zen Arcade where Bob is starting to work through some stuff from his childhood, and dealing with his sexuality. But one thing about Hüsker, we weren't a gay forward band, but we were a band that was open to everybody, and you know, it's just keep an open mind. You know, don't put labels on people. Don't, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
So really ahead of your time, because that's how things are now.
yeah.
But so much more so. And I feel like that's a net positive.
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want me to ask you? Anything you feel I've left out? Anything anything you want to ask me?
Hey, ask me about my new record.
Yeah.
All right, so
Tell me about your new record.
So, DC Jam Records.
Okay.
Is our record label. We've got Ultra Bomb's new album is called "Dying to Smile," and it comes out in less than 2 weeks on June 7th.
And you guys are going to be playing around,
Yes.
doing some shows,
We're,
supporting the record?
Yep, we will be out on the West Coast, possibly back out on the East Coast. We're playing Hellfest in France at the end of June. It's in Clisson, and that'll be fun. Drink a little muscadet. And Dying to Smile, we recorded in December in London, right at the beginning of a tour.
Man, you guys are classy.
And again, we did it in 4 days. This time we wrote 12 songs in the first 2 days and then wrapped it up. So
West Coast
two
dates.
records, both recorded in 4 days. I'm hoping that our next record will have a little bit more time to be in the studio.
Nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can get to one of your shows and make some video for
Yeah.
the channel as well.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, which is something I like to do. I post a lot of live music
Okay.
on the channel. Super cool talking with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Greg.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Like and subscribe to the channel.
That's right.
Or be a scumbag.
Yep. And don't be a dick.
Don't be a